Hello, YouTube. Oh, I forgot my microphone again. Just need this for YouTube. I'm just waiting for TikTok people to turn up. There we go. There we go. That's better. Okay. Hello, Melissa Rodriguez. You've been here before. Oobalicious. I gotta be careful when reading out names. If you were with me yesterday, you know what I did on YouTube? They had two names and put them together, and it was not rude, but inappropriate. Anyway, it was funny. That's how dopey I am. Hi, I am. So while we're waiting, I'd love to know where you're from. Remember, I also film these on YouTube these days. So that my audience is predominantly on TikTok, but I also film the live on YouTube, and that's where it's saved. So that's why I put it on YouTube. Hi, Ireland. Montreal, Quebec. Montreal. I've never been to Montreal. I hear it's a really great place. Lots of culture. Someone said it's sort of like Mardi Gras kind of atmosphere in summer. I don't know if that's right. Chicago. Hi, Chicago. I used to have my full name on here. You're new. Hi, new. From Washington. So we're neighbors. I'm in Vancouver, Canada. Have you been in Germany? I was in Germany for 1980 Oktoberfest. So was it comfortable with that? Yeah, I'm splashed all over the internet. Not that anyone cares, but you just get used to it. Like, it doesn't bother me at all because my personal life has nothing to do with the internet. So you just get real careful what you say. Ireland, because you do get some weirdos on here. It happens. I've been on the internet. I used to do a lot of TV, and that's where you get the weirdos, is when years and years ago when I used to do a lot of TV and like morning shows and stuff like that. Holy moly, the weirdos came out there, I'll tell you. Holy, because they're just sitting around watching TV. It was just really bizarre. And I said that. I said, why is that? And they said, it's just the way it is. So, okay, so where are you from? Ireland. Hi, Ireland. Got a couple of Irelands here. So where are you from while we're waiting for people to turn up? Whoops. I reorganized how I keep notes on what videos I want to film. One that I want to do is how to shop with a toddler. I done that one a few times, but it came up a little recently again. So I'm going to do that one again. I like that one. Okay. So where are you from while we're waiting here? Oh, I'm just sleepy today. I can tell I've been pushing myself a lot at the gym, and then you feel like you're coming down with the flu because you just push too hard. I think I'd learn. I'm in my 60s. I just think I'm 20 still. I don't know why. I'm not 20. I'm in 62. Minnesota. Hi, Minnesota. Okay, so let's get going with your parenting questions. By the way, the link above, it says Bratbusters Linktree. It's just in bullet form, everything I have to offer. You can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board. You're on that behavior board too. That's what makes it work, because you got to give respect to get it. Remember, your kids aren't listening to you. They're watching you. So if you show that you're accountable and responsible, they will follow suit and be the same. It takes time. It's work. Getting respect is hard work. Maintaining it is easy. So, but it's worth it. It's worth the work to get there. Okay, so do you have limits on screen time? There's lots of different ways that you can manage screen time. I don't have any set idea of how many hours they should be on there a week. Nobody knows that, right? So that's a personal choice. But as an example, I'll tell you, I think the best way to handle screen time is, let's say they're 10 hours a week is what you allot for their screen time, as an example. So you say to them, okay, here's the chart, 10 hours a week. That would be 60, geez, why am I so bad at this? 10 hours, 600 minutes. 600 minutes, and have it all charted out, and you tick it off, and they can decide when they use that up. So long as it's appropriate. They can't get up at 2 in the morning and play on video games or whatever. Now we tick it off, and they learn how to manage their own screen time. But you have an allotted certain hours, so you just keep track of all that. And yeah. That's if it's a problem. Like, I didn't have really rules with my kids. Someone asked me that a while ago. I thought, what an interesting question. They said, because I was a leader right from the time my kids were little. And so, sorry, the screen's gone a little wonky here. I don't know why it does that. Why did it do that? So I just lost, there we go. Anyway, so someone said, did you have rules? No, I really didn't. My kids were sort of self-disciplining. They just sort of managed themselves. They knew what was reasonable and what was unreasonable. They just kind of managed themselves. And sometimes I'd step in and say, hey, you've been on that for long enough. How about you take a break? Oh, okay. So it was they were sort of self-disciplining. That's where you really want to go. Discipline gets a bad rap as if it's negative. But then when we talk about self-discipline, it's wonderful. What's the difference? Discipline is discipline. So yeah, you discipline your children so that they will be self-disciplining. So I really didn't have many rules with my kids at all. Okay. How in the world do you get your teens to do their chores? Well, it depends. Are you fair and reasonable? I expected my kids to clean up after themselves. But yeah, I don't know. That's kind of how do I explain this? If they don't respect you, they're not going to do anything. They're just going to lay around and do nothing. So you got to work on your relationship first, and then you can negotiate with them and reason with them. But you got to work on your relationship first. Everyone sort of wants the rainbow, but they don't want to go through the storm. You got to go through that storm to get your relationship cemented with them so they respect you. Then they'll everything's kind of easy after that. How do I explain this? I'm not very good at explaining this right now, obviously. What do I mean by that? Yeah, everyone sort of wants to, like, especially with teenagers, how do we get them to do this? How do we get them to do that? And I say, well, you got to work on your relationship first. Then we can discuss that. Whenever someone hires me to work with them, if they have teenagers that they don't, maybe not getting along with all that well, they want to address all the things they want their teenagers to change right away. And I say, well, we don't do that. We work on your relationship first. You connect with them first. Then you start to work on the stuff you want to work on. So I don't know what your relationship is like with your teenager. You got to solidify that first, and then we can work on the chores. So I don't know. If you want to hire me, it's up in the link, Bratbusters at Linktree. Okay, so I'm just really sleepy today. I was just saying I just worked out too hard at the gym lately, and it catches up with me. I always feel like I'm coming down with the flu, and that's when I know I'm pushing myself too hard. Anyway, I don't have an off button for working out. I don't know why. I've always been like this. Okay. I have a 7-year-old who acts much younger and wants to be babied. He has a 1-year-old sister. Well, maybe that's why. Maybe he's jealous of the 1-year-old and he's just sort of acting out. It might just be temporary, but I don't know exactly what he's doing. I'd have to assess that. So, and just because he wants to be babied, do you baby him? Like, do you feed into that? Yeah, I don't know where the payoff. At 7 years old, they only do what works, so it must be working. I don't know what's going on there. 2-year-old hits when getting diaper changed. Yeah, you just pin them down. I used to put my elbow like this across my toddler's chest and just change them like zippity quick, so they didn't even have a chance. But yeah, they're gonna do stuff when they're toddlers. They're just gonna do it. Just get them changed and then put them down and walk away. So don't give in to that. Don't get angry at that or anything. 2-year-old. Okay, a lot of 2-year-old questions. Look at my toddler videos. I talk about 2-year-olds not having any sanity because they're not formed yet. They're going to do crazy stuff. They're just usually stage after stage after stage. Whenever people hire me when they have older kids and they also have toddlers, they never even mention the toddlers because they understand they're just crazy. Don't try and make sense out of them. There's nothing wrong with toddlers. They're going to do silly stuff, smear poop on the wall even. They're toddlers. They're going to outgrow all that stuff. They just are forming. They're brand new, fresh human beings. They've got one marble and some tumbleweed floating around in there. They're just forming. There's nothing wrong with toddlers. It's your expectations of them that are out of whack. So yeah, they're just brand new, fresh human beings. They're learning. Imagine if you've only been in the world for 2 years and the first one you were a potato laying on a mattress. Like, they're just forming. So yeah. Okay. Okay, I don't discuss autism on TikTok. If you want my help with that, you have to hire me. It's in the link above if you're interested. Well, Okay, Jessica. No, we don't baby him. This is this 7-year-old that's reverting back to babyhood because he's got a 1-year-old sister. No, we don't baby him. He doesn't want to dress himself, acts like he can't or can't do things himself. So, like, what I mean is just ignore it. Like, there's got to be situations where you've just got to get out the door. And if he's acting like he doesn't want to do anything, I don't know how to, I'm really muddled today. I don't know what's wrong with me. I've got like this muddled head today. I've had my head down doing weird stuff today, all admin work. So, yeah, don't give into it. I don't know quite what the problem is. He's acting like he can't do anything. And I'm like, so just ignore it. Like, I don't quite understand what the problem is. Yeah, what's the problem? Is it just an attitude? I ignore attitude. If he's just acting like a baby, I just ignore it. So I don't know what the problem is. What specifically is he doing that's a problem? He acts like he doesn't want to get dressed, but does he get dressed? Or yeah, I need to know a specific problem. Homeschooling. I don't have any opinion on that because there is no right and wrong, and this is better, that's worse. There is none of that. It's like homeschooling, religion, breastfeeding for years. There's another one. There's several of them that are just sort of lifestyle choices. I don't have an opinion on it. Like, that's just a choice. You know, it's sort of like asking me about what religion is best. I don't know. There's no right and wrong, or, it's no better or worse, or it's just, that's a personal choice. The only thing I've seen consistently throughout the years, I've been doing this for a very long time now, is when I get parents who have teenagers who have been homeschooled and now they're mainstreamed, they tend to struggle socially. They're just different. Homeschool kids just have a difference about them. And if you haven't socialized them with other children that were not homeschooled, they struggle more. So make sure that you socialize them with other kids who are not homeschooled. The homeschool community tends to be very tight-knit, and they tend to almost sort of stick together. And I would avoid that. Put them in sports and everything else that has nothing to do with homeschooling. So yeah, get them out in the world, because most of us were not homeschooled. I was very strict about mainstreaming my kids. I wanted to throw them out into, I wanted to get them ready for the world as much as possible. And homeschooling, the only downfall is that most of us were not homeschooled. So they are a little bit different in that way. That's the only thing. Just make sure they socialize with other kids who are not homeschooled. Is it normal for a 4-year-old to have different behavior with different kids, naughty, good behavior? Yes and no. It depends what they're doing. Like, it's not normal for them to go out and hit some kids unless those kids are hitting them first, and then not hit other kids. They sort of have that sort of same social behavior, but we're all a little bit different with different people. Like, I know people who are just goofy and we giggle all the time, and then others we like to talk about deep subjects. Others I like to talk to about business or fitness, or, you're a little bit, like, my basic personality is the same, but you talk about different things. So, I don't quite know where that's at. What to do when my 4-year-old acts silly when being corrected? So that's attitude. I don't address that. I just follow through with what I'm doing, and that's it. I don't worry about how they react to it. Like, what I mean is, when I'm laying down the law and I say, well, there's a consequence for what you did, and if they just go and act silly, I ignore that stuff. You don't react to that. Leaders act, they don't react. Three-year-old telling lies all the time. Okay. The behavior board, it's up in the link above, Bratbusters at Linktree. It's free, and it starts at the age of 3. Put down no lying. And then you tell them, or write, they don't understand, they can't read yet at 3, but just say, I will decide when you're lying. And so they can't argue with you. And then just have a consequence. Every time they lie, there's a consequence. Just deal with it like this, black and white. You lied, here's the consequence. Don't get into discussions about, but I wasn't lying, I'm sorry, I didn't. So whatever, here's the consequence. It's happening. Like, it's that being pulled into these excuses and negotiations, and with little ones, it's just, that's what gets you in trouble. Yeah, you lied. Let's go to the behavior board. There's the consequence. You're going to be putting the dishes away or whatever. So, and then say, do you understand? I'm sorry, I didn't. Well, dishes are going to be put away. If not, then media blackout. That's your choice. So just follow through. Follow through. Parents tend to not want to follow through, which I always struggle with that. Like what I mean is, why wouldn't you? Why on earth would you not follow through? Like what I mean is, you know it's going to bite you in the bum later. You know if you say something and you don't follow through, you're going to pay for it 10 times worse down the road. So you see what I mean? Like because I have no fear of a kid getting angry with me. I'm not trying to please them. I'm trying to raise nice kids. So, but yeah, it's that lack of following through is what I see the most with parents. It's in a split home. His mom does everything for him. We try to get a little bit, but he doesn't want to. Does it matter that he doesn't want to? You see, you're asking me about attitude. I follow through with actions, and sure, you don't have to do that, but if you don't, here's the consequence. Like, just make sure you're teaching him how to be accountable. We all learn about accountability through consequences, right? Like, you don't speed because you might get a ticket. You pay the rent because you will lose your home. You see where I'm going with this? It's all about consequences. So I don't care if you want to pay your rent. You're going to be out in the street if you don't. It's like that. So attitude means nothing to me with kids. Like what I mean is I just never address attitude. I take action. So I don't care if they like it or not, if I'm doing the right thing and I'm being fair and reasonable. At 7 years old, he is old enough to understand that. But what age would be appropriate to do the bedtime battles approach to staying in bed? Usually 2.5 to 3. The reason I say that is that's when they're out of the crib. So it's once they're out of the crib and when did they get out of the crib? I did that with my kids. As soon as they flopped out of the bed onto the floor, that was it. I got rid of the crib. The first flop, they were out of the crib. I did a video. I thought this video would kill. No one looked at it. I just did it yesterday. And it was about what did I call it? It's a good video. I'm going to rename it and do it again. So it's just the title, I guess. No one watched it, but it's all about toddlers and how to make your life easy with toddlers. But I didn't call it that. I should have called it that, shouldn't I? How to make your life easy with toddlers. Okay, I'm going to rename it. I'll do it again. How to make your life easy with toddlers. There you go. Better name. So I always get that wrong. Okay, just a sec here. I'm just going to look it up. Shoot, everything's so slow because I'm recording on YouTube at the same time. So, okay, what did I call it here? How to cope with toddlers. Yeah, like got hardly any views. It got 2,800 views. And what to do when a toddler says no got 45,000. Like, I just can't figure it out. But anyway, how to cope with toddlers. You're trying to figure them out. That's the biggest thing I see on here is you're trying to figure them out. You're completely wasting your time. Absolute waste of time trying to figure out your toddlers. They are brand new, fresh human beings. They're crazy. They don't make any sense. They haven't got sanity yet. They haven't developed it. They haven't developed common sense and thought processes. And they're just not there yet. They have the odd moment of clarity, but they're few and far between, okay? So what I did on that video was I said, it was a really good video. You should watch that. But anyway, what I said was 3 things that you can do to make your life easier with toddlers. Well, for one thing, I'm going to write that down too. Stop trying to figure them out. Just a sec. So one thing is you completely child-proof your whole house so you never have to say no. The second thing is you do a toy rotation system so they're never bored. You do that maybe once a week. You rotate their toys around. The third one is when you are playing with your toddler, you get down on your level, you find your inner toddler, and you connect with them in their level. So you get right down on the floor, like even go down on your elbows so you're eye to eye with them or even lower, and they just look at you differently. They start to connect with you differently. You're entering their world. You're starting to get respect. That's how you start doing it with a toddler. So you enter their world. But those are the 3 best things I can come up with. And stop trying to figure them out. They don't make any sense. That's 4 things. I'm going to do a new video and put that in there. 4 ways to make life easier with a toddler. Is that better? With a toddler. Yeah, I obviously just named it wrong. But yeah, I thought that video was going to do really well. Not that it matters that it does well, but it's a good message for you to hear. Like when I say that, I'm not looking for views, which I am sort of, but it's like that's a really helpful video. And anyway, I'll reword it. So how do you get your child to stay in bed all night? Okay, you just do the bedtime battle stuff. That is when you say to them, okay, it's bedtime, you're going to stay in bed, don't get out of bed. The first time they wander out of bed, you say, I said it's bedtime, stay in bed. You walk them in there very slowly, very calmly, put them back in bed. They may be kicking and screaming so long as one body part touches the mattress. You walk away. Don't let them get past the threshold of their bedroom. Otherwise, it becomes a game of chase. So you just say, the second time they get out of bed, put them back in bed, and you say one word, bedtime. Every time after that, you don't look at them or talk to them. Slowly, calmly pick them up, put them back in bed. You might have to do it 50 to 100 times. It's usually one night of sheer hell. But often the worse that night is, the less likely they are to ever get up again. Because they're like, oh, it just put something in their head like, oh, there's no point in doing this anymore. So yeah. Okay. What? Became the number 34 member on the team. Just got number 1 gifter badge. What does all that mean? I don't know what that means. I don't know what any of that stuff means. It drives me nuts whenever you do something like that because I can't figure it out. I've looked on TikTok trying to figure out what that stuff means. My daughter always laughs at me. She goes, Mom, don't try and figure it out. So yeah, I just can't figure TikTok out. I don't understand it. Okay. In your opinion, what's the best age gap between children? That there is no best age gap. I've worked with families who have 10 years apart, and the older one just is really nurturing with the little one. And other ones, they're really close in age. They're best buddies. Sometimes the older one hates the little wee one because they're jealous, and you get them close in age and they kill each other. I really think it's just personality traits is a big part of it, and how you manage that. But I don't think there's any perfect age. I had 5 years between my two because I had back surgery after my son. Then I had miscarried multiples between them. And then I had my daughter. It was a miserable pregnancy. I was sick all 9 months. And then I developed heart arrhythmia and I had to have heart surgery after her. So I was lucky I shot 2 kids out. They were 5 years apart, worked out great. There literally is no perfect age. If there is, there may be there may be a study out there that says it, but I'll bet you can find a study that will support anything you believe in. So I did a video on my personal channel, and I talked about longevity, and I just said, who knows what. Now, I'd like to live a long time, but I want to be really fit and healthy while I do it and hopefully have my mind going too. So I'm studying this now. As you get older, you start to study longevity because that's an old person thing. So I was studying this, and I said, well, the only thing I know I'm doing pretty well is I'm pretty into fitness and health. And I'm a gluten-free health food vegan. So I said, I don't know about the gluten-free and I don't know about the vegan, but I'm pretty sure eating healthy is a good thing. Like I'm not eating junk or anything like that. So then this person comes on. There's always someone. They come on, well, my grandmother was 325 pounds and she lived to 91. She still had her mind about her. Okay, so that's the way you do it. Like there's always a way to prove no matter what you believe in, always. It's called confirmation bias. You can find as much stuff out there to prove what you think. That's why I only teach through experience. I teach through what's worked with all the kids I've worked with, hundreds of them, and teenagers and toddlers, and I teach through experience. They taught me all this. So I'm not using any studies or anything. Whatever people say out there, I don't know. I only teach through my own personal experience. So that way I'm covering all my bases. Like what I mean is I know of what I'm talking about through experience. But there might be others with different experiences, and that works too. It's not like my way is the only way. I don't believe that for a minute. I'm sure there's lots of ways. Why do they call it the terrible twos? Because they're all feet, no brains. Cute as a button, but they're all feet, no brains. And they're actually my least favorite age because they are all feet, no brains. You have to watch, it's safety. You have to watch them constantly, and they're fast. So anytime you take them out, they're like zipping, they're right into traffic or something. So yeah, that's why. They're all feet, no brains. They're dangerous. 4-year-old has been the hardest for me. Usually when people hire me, I'll sometimes say, what's our target kid here? There's usually one that's the target. So not always. Sometimes all three kids are the ones that are providing the challenges, but there's usually one who's just a little bit more feisty, a little bit more challenging. It's personality. They're often the leaders of tomorrow too. So, because they are challenging. And my toddler hates the car seat. And the best way to describe her is that, yeah, lots of them do. I did the karate chop with my son. He used to sometimes have a tantrum. He was the one who had tantrums. My daughter never did. You're born, you're either going to have them or not. And my friends and I used to laugh. We say we did the karate chop to get them in the car seat. Once they're strapped in, they're fine. But yeah, we just hold them in their belly area. As soon as they took a breath, zip, in you go, and click, click, and they were all in. But yeah, sometimes they do. I never worry what they do. I worry what I do. I lead, they will follow. You just do what you got to do, right? You can overpower a toddler. You can get them into a car seat. I never cared if they liked it or not. It didn't upset me, so that's why they didn't put up much of a stink with me with anything, because it didn't bother me. What do you do when your child says you're mean to me? Say, oh, well, live with it. Like, I don't. That's manipulation. If you're going to worry about that sort of stuff, they've got you by the knackers. It's just manipulation. You're mean to me. Well, there you go. Tough life, eh? That's what my mother would have said. Yeah, don't let them manipulate you like that. That's the pleaser parent head that you got going on there. Yeah, they're gonna run you ragged if you let stuff like that get on your nerves. They're gonna be totally in charge, totally, and they know it. Hmm. Do you think it's worth the fight to wean a toddler? He's 23 and constantly wants to be breastfed. I don't have an opinion on how long you breastfeed. That's a personal choice. But if you want to get him off the boob, what I did with my daughter, my son weaned himself at 10 months old. He was tearing my boob across the room. I couldn't feed him anywhere where there was anything going on, because he just had to look, and he'd take my boob with him. So he was happier. As soon as I took him off the boob, he was happier. I was happier. And he'd have the bottle, he loved it, like feed like this and look around like it was just him, right? Whereas my daughter, I could have fed her for years and years and years. She was just wanted to be cuddled all the time and held. So what I did with her, she was 14 months old, and I figured, for me, it's different with everybody. Once they were up and walking, I didn't want to breastfeed them anymore. It was just my choice. So she was 14 months old, and she was up and walking really well. And I thought, that's it. So I started wearing different clothes, so they were different access, and I gave her to her dad a lot more. I didn't pick her up as much. She just learned, and I bought new sippy cups. So it was, showed her that no more, no more. She didn't put up much of a stink. But by that time, she was 14 months. They kind of understand when mom says something that's happening. Like they kind of already understand when you're a leader. They just get it. But yeah. Please do a series on preschoolers. Okay, a series. What do you mean a series? Preschoolers. Preschoolers are 3 and 4-year-olds. I just wrote down preschoolers. I'll think about what to say about them. How do you deal with a hyperactive toddler? All of my advice is for kids who are hyperactive to it. It's no difference. I've worked with hundreds of kids. I didn't learn much with my own kids because I got respect when they were tiny and kind of sailed right through. But I learned all this through working with challenging kids. No one once ever said to me, here's an easy one, Lisa. Not once, not ever, not ever, 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 ever. They always went like this. Good luck with this one. And they were always ADHD, WXYZ. They were alphabet kids, right? That's why I always called them. And, but yeah, that's where I learned all this. Calm leadership. They react very well to that. And they like it. The more feisty the kid, when I got a new kid and they'd say, can you work with this one? And when I get the more feisty they were, the quicker they were for me to turn around and get respect. Do you know why that is? And as soon as they'd say, oh God, this one's, good luck with this. This one's really challenging. And I'm like, yeah, okay. Because when a child who's extremely challenging behaviorally and really feisty and rude, bad attitude. When they come up against a calm leader, they give in really quick. Do you know why? It's like, finally, oh, finally. I'm providing them what they've always needed and never had. So they're relieved. Children all need, crave, and want a leader. When they get one, they tend to just give in really quickly. Now you're talking to each other, and you know I get all snoopy when you do that. Oh, and you're a teacher. You're asking, I don't teach teaching. A huge portion of my clients, I would say up to about 40%, are teachers, principals, social workers, child psychologists, because they're learners. It's not that they're struggling more than other people, they're just learners. So, and they understand that institution teaching, which is what all that is, and I can't do, and parenting, which is extremely personal, they're different. There's different techniques. You don't cross over. Some of them, some stuff you do, but not everything crosses over. Um, How do you deal with a 4-year-old who shouts at you when you're disciplining them? I do not deal with attitude. I just don't. They're shouting while I'm disciplining. I'm very quiet when I'm disciplining. If they don't even hear me, this is all they see. If they're screaming, that's it. And then I follow through and I make it happen. So if they will not do what they've been told to do, and I said, well, you didn't do it. You had 10 minutes to put the dishes away and you chose not to do it. I didn't hear you. Well, that's because you were yelling. So it wasn't done. So now 24-hour media blackout starts now. Do you understand? Just take charge. Just do it. You follow through. You lead. What you're saying is, how do I react? How do I follow them? Is what you're really asking me. How do I follow them? They're yelling at me. How do I react to that? You don't. Just act. Act like a leader. You lead, they will follow. If you follow, they will lead. That's what's happening. They're leading and you're following. I could care less if they're yelling at me. It would mean nothing to me. Nothing. Nothing. Because I'm leading. I don't care if they can hear me because they're screaming at me. I'm just like, okay, well, you did that. So here's the consequence. They may not hear a word I'm saying. I'm following through, though. That's their choice. They chose not to listen. So yeah, you lead, they will follow. Because yeah, you're asking me, how do I follow their lead when you say that? Every time a parent asks about attitude, that's what you're asking. How do I follow their lead? I love this question because I spent years and years at gyms with my kids. This is Jess. I struggle with taking advantage of gym daycare because I'm hesitant to trust people that work there. You just have to make a choice. The ones that I liked, I waited till my kids were on their feet, by the way, and really confidently on their feet before I took them to gym daycare. Also, I used to teach aerobics. So I'd work at a lot of different gyms. And I would, as my kids got older, they could just sit at the front desk with someone, but I always knew everybody. But what I did was one gym, you're going to have to drive maybe further. This one gym that I used to work at was fantastic. They had windows where you could see the kids. So look around, you might be able to see the kids. But yeah, my kids spent years in gym daycares. Oops. Bu- 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 bu. So I'm just reading through a bunch of stuff. If you were on here yesterday, you know what I did when I was reading out that YouTube one? I got the giggles after that. They had written out their name and it sort of spelled something kind of not rude, but inappropriate. And I was reading it out like an idiot. That's funny. Okay, advice on a 13-month-old not interested in learning to walk or talk. That's got to be your first. Because when you have subsequent kids, you're thrilled when they don't walk or talk. It's like you don't want to rush it. So yeah, just wait. Sometimes they're 3 before they walk and talk. I would not try and force that. You tend to do that with your first, right? Because you're excited. But once they start walking and talking, you're like, what was I thinking? It's great when they don't walk. You know what I'm saying. I'm making a joke out of it. Okay. Yeah, my first one, yeah. There's so many creeps, it's scary. What you mean on here? Yeah, online can't hurt you because they can't reach through and grab you. So it never bothered me. Um, yeah, it doesn't bother me. Uh, Actually, I talk about this now. I didn't talk about it for the first year and a half I was on TikTok, and I'm on here a year and a half now. But they've stopped doing it. When I first came on here, I was different. The way I talk about parenting, I go against the grain. And the trend that's out right now is the pleaser parent. Anyway, when I first came on, I grew really fast. I kind of blew up overnight. Well, my competitors came after me big time, doing horrible videos about me and everything. They grew my channel. It was wonderful. They had my daughter and I were just cracking up. We're like, couldn't figure it out. The more they insulted me, the more my channel grew and grew and grew. It was so funny. They're not doing that anymore. I miss them. So come on, keep it was so funny. Ah, that was great. So sometimes this stuff, this nasty stuff online is a good thing, right? I like to make lemonade out of lemons. That was hilarious. One of my favorite creators, you've taught me so much. Excellent. It's just common sense when you think about it. It's common sense. Think about leadership. Let's say you had a really good sports coach. What were they like? Did they make you follow the rules of the game? What if you cheated? Didn't you have to sit on the bench? Did you want to please them because they were fun and they were on your side and they were encouraging you? That's what I teach. It's the same stuff. It's leadership. It's fun. You want to be fun with your kids. You want to enjoy them. Enter their world as much as possible when you're having fun. You're disciplining, not so much. You're in charge when you're disciplining. What is that? Oh, it's just got an appointment. Not yet. Um, 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 um. Actually, I'm going to I want to write that down. When you worry for for a video about their attitude, what you're saying is you lead and I will follow. That's it. I'll word it differently. But yeah, when you're worried about a kid's attitude, they're in charge. Guaranteed. I could care less. If I'm doing the right thing and I'm following through and I'm a leader and I'm saying, I didn't like what you did, here's the consequence, I could care this much how they react. Like nothing. I don't care. That's none of my business how they react to my leadership. None of my business. I know what I'm doing. And it's their choice to act like that. They have to work that out themselves because I know I'm a good leader. So I know eventually I'll get them on board. But if I was to react to their attitude, they are completely in charge. Completely. You're mean. I hate you. Whatever. I would never react to that stuff. It would be like if you had let's children are not that much different from us, okay? They're a little bit more natural, okay? But we're all the same. Think about if you're working in a company and you've got a boss who lays down the law and says, look, I don't want you being late anymore. You're going to be fired. What if he went like this? How would he react? Would he be upset with you or would he think you're nuts and just keep going? You see what I'm saying? It's the exact same thing. He's a leader or she's a leader. Like if you had an employee who went, I hate you. Like, are you kidding me with this? That's my attitude when kids act like that. It's exactly the same thing. It's ridiculous as an adult, but think about it. If you were a boss and you had staff who acted like that, would you react to that? Well, you'd probably fire them, but you see what I'm saying? It's the exact same thing. Leaders don't react to that garbage. And it's just garbage. It's their own fluff they got to go through. And yeah. Like the only time I remember my kids with attitude, and they were 5, I think they were 5 years old. My son had been at someone's house and he came home and said to me, he must have heard it at his friends. And he came home and said to me, I'm bored, in that snotty tone. I'd never heard that before from him. And as soon as he said it, I went like this. And he went, uh-oh. I thought, are you kidding me with this? You're going to pull that on me? So I said, "Oh, my precious little angel, come with mommy." And he was instantly like, "No, no." And so I took him in the laundry room, filled up a bucket, and gave him a mop. He was never bored again. Anyway, 5 years later, my daughter, same thing. She'd been at a friend's house, and she said, "I'm bored," in that same snotty tone, which I never heard her say, and I never heard it again either. And so my son started laughing instantly, and I took her in the laundry room, filled up a bucket, and gave her a mop. She was never bored again. Funny. So yeah, you lead, they will follow. Don't react to that kind of attitude. That's a huge thing that I see as parents reacting to attitude. If you let that get under your belt or under your brain and let it mess you up, they're in charge. Guaranteed, they are in charge. My daughter does this grumble all the time. Well, then she's in charge. If that bothers you, it could bother you, but if you react to that, she's in charge. She does it because it works. Does it because she knows she can run you around, drive you nuts. So yeah, that's your challenge as a parent, to just ignore. The only reason it's so easy for me is because I've had so much experience with kids before I even had my own. Like, I understand that stuff. I'm like, yeah, whatever. If I had acted like that with my mother and acted sort of, she would have looked at me like this. Are you kidding me with this? And I would have been embarrassed. Like, because I looked up to my mom. And that's what my kids are like. With a leader, they don't tend to do that. They would be embarrassed. Do you have any regrets as a mom now looking back? No, I don't. None. Nope, not one. I would do it all the same. And my kids said they're going to try and parent the way I did. Not that I'm perfect, but I'm perfectly comfortable with the mistakes I made. We all make mistakes. Life's messy. I think overall, I'm very happy with the job I did. I would do it the same. Yeah, nothing. By the way, I'm not one to look back with regrets anyway, because that's a negative way to look at things. I learned a lot before I had my own kids. So by the time I had my kids, I kind of knew what I was doing, and we worked through stuff together. Parenting is different from working with other people's kids because you live with them, especially with teenagers. Teenagers, you got to live with them before you can teach anything about teenagers. I know how to get respect with troubled teens, but living with them is a different thing, because they're your babies and you have to start letting go. Letting go is the hard part. Yeah. That was my biggest challenge with teenagers, is letting go. Like, my daughter went to Zambia for 3 months when she was 18 with college. And, it was a village. There was risks involved in that, but she's very independent. Sorry, I live downtown. I could have stopped her. I could have said, and she says, "Mom, if you don't want me to go, I won't go." But I knew she was really important to her. 3 months she went. She was 18 years old, didn't always have internet. It was painful. So yeah, it's not a regret, but that was one of my biggest challenges in parenting, was letting her go to Zambia for 3 months at 18 years old. That was, I'd say, probably my biggest challenge, because I could have easily, she's so easy. She's an easy, young lady. I could have easily said, "No, I don't want you to go." Boy, was she humiliated at the airport 3 months later. Oh my God. When I saw her come off that plane, oh my God. Yeah, she was not impressed with my reaction. Might have gone a little bit overboard. My ex-husband was there filming it. I almost wish no one had filmed it. It's not pretty. Okay. Repeating. How to stop repeating always. Yeah, I never repeat myself with kids. But what I do is give them a little bit of warning. Say, "We're going to be leaving in 5 minutes. Okay, make sure you're ready to go." So then when it's time to leave, I say, "Okay, we're leaving now." If they're not ready, there's a consequence right away. I would go and get them in the car, and say, "There'll be a consequence because you weren't ready." So yeah, I don't repeat myself. You say something once. This is only if I know I'm being fair and reasonable, though. If I'm being fair and reasonable, I don't repeat myself. I didn't want obedient little soldiers. That's ridiculous. I wanted kids who were self-disciplining and making good choices. So if I'm being fair and reasonable, then they're just happy. Why would they not be happy? Because it was mutual too. Yeah. But yeah, I didn't repeat myself. Consequence, I loved having my hair brushed. If they kept me waiting or anything, they have to brush my hair for 5 minutes. They hated doing it. I love having it done. Uh, Someone said, I feel like you were harsh. Well, then I'm not for you. There's lots of other people out there that I'm not for you. Okay. Thank you. You've done so much for my wife and I. Excellent. Perfect. I don't recognize that name. So you probably didn't hire me, right? Oh, you could be a different handle. Um, well, here's the thing. With this repeating, that's a difficult one because oftentimes parents are being unreasonable in their expectations. So they're repeating themselves constantly, but they're being unfair. A lot of parents decide, okay, that's it. I'm going to be a leader and I'm going to take charge of everything. Then they go overboard. They swing the pendulum in the other direction. That's why I have it all. If you look at my course up above, it's 5 weeks to get respect. It is paced out. You're gradually becoming a leader. You don't just go, that's it. I'm doing it all now and that's it. I'm going to be a leader. I want that done, that done. It's not like that. By the way, if we were going somewhere and I kept my kids waiting, I was punished too. It's mutual. It's that give respect to get it, right? My kids loved it when I messed up. As soon as I messed up with it, they'd look at each other like this. And I go, oh, geez, what do you want? Because I knew I messed up. So they'd say, we'd love to go to the water slide park after school. I'm like, okay, I'll pack your swimsuits and we'll go there after school. Anyway, stuff like that. So it's got to be mutual. That's why we just had such we all got along so great. It was fun. We had a fun household. It was fun. I remember I had so many parents tell me at school, parents say, all we ever see, we had a little blue RAV4, and they said, every time you drive past, this is all we see. And they said, all of you were just laughing all the time, me and my kids. We just had a blast because I got all that pesky leadership cemented when they were little. And then I just kind of relaxed and we just had fun. We were just friends. So, but I was always mom first. But yeah, that's why it's so important to get this stuff cemented, because once it's cemented, then you can just relax and enjoy, because that's all you want to do. Like I never disciplined my kids. It wasn't necessary. Because if they did something wrong, they knew they'd be brushing my hair. They hated doing it. Okay, this is a really good point, Carolyn. I'm a grandparent. I watch my grandbaby. I don't want to step on toes. Here's what I say. I've got my first grandchild coming, and I always told my kids, I'll never tell you how to parent. It's none of my business. I'm not like that. I don't tell people what to do. You're just soliciting my advice by being on here. But yeah, I never tell anyone how to live. But I'll just sit back and watch the show. But I say when I'm babysitting, it's grandma's rules. Because if you trust someone enough to babysit, don't tell them how to manage your child. I think that's ridiculous. And children need to learn that there's different people out there, different styles. That's okay. It's very good for them because they're going to go to school. I've actually had clients take the behavior board to school and ask the teacher to do it at school too. I'm like, oh my God, how embarrassing. I hope the teacher doesn't think I said to do that. Yeah, that's up to the other person to decide. If you trust that person enough to babysit, let them do. Yeah, that's grandma's rules. But if it's something with like sugar and all that, I would respect that. If they said we don't want our kids to have any sugar, I don't eat sugar. Like I'm really healthy. So if I handed my kids over to someone although I used to hand my kids over to friends who babysat, they had tons of junk food in the house. They used to give their kids all sorts of junk, whereas I didn't. We just didn't eat that way. So I never said anything. My kids always came home with a stomach ache, but I never said anything. If I'm asking someone to babysit, their rules. Okay, this is a very valid question. I've had this in coaching a lot, more than you would think. I'm not good at, this is BC, okay. I'm not good at playing. I feel uncomfortable and awkward. How else can I connect with my young boys? Okay, I'm extremely goofy. I'm the mom rolling down the hill at the park with the kids. That's my style. That's how I connect with kids. Most of my clients aren't silly and goofy like I am, right? That's why I don't talk about it a lot. That's my style. I'm a total goofball. So that's my style. But I tell parents, some of them are really good at telling stories. Some of them are good at music. Some of them are good at art. You find something that you can enjoy with your children. You don't have to be silly like them. That's okay. Not all kids are silly, by the way. I was always really goofy. I'm still a giggler. So, I was always really goofy, and that suits most kids. but they're not all like that either. Sometimes I just have to sit and do art with some kids because they're very serious little children. So that's how I bonded with those kids. Okay, so find your something that you can both enjoy. You're going to have to search for it. You don't have to be silly. Yeah, I always say I'm like a 62-year-old toddler. My daughter said, actually, you're not, because I was always the responsible one too. I was always like the one, if there was a group of people and and they needed someone to drive, I always got handed the keys. If that tells you a lot about my personality, I was always the responsible one, but I was also the giggler and the goofy one. So I have a lot of inner child in me. And my daughter said, actually, you have a sense of wonder. I get very excited by things. I get very, into things. So, and kids do. Kids have, I never lost that sense of excitement over something new. I get like really excited. So, but most adults aren't like that. So when I'm coaching people, well, like one woman, God, she was just adorable. This was years and years ago. She was one of my clients. And she said, well, I'm not fun. She said, I don't have a sense of humor. She was a scientist or something. And because I often say, what do you do for a living? Because it tells me a lot about the person too. She goes, I'm a scientist. I don't have she goes, I've just never been funny or fun or anything. And I said, well, what do you like to do? Do you know what she was brilliant at? She could make up stories about anything or anyone. And I said, well, what do you love? And she goes, well, I love making up stories. So I said, well, tell me a story about myself. And she did this just off the top of her head. She made up the story. All I wanted to do was crawl into her lap. She was so soothing. That was her way of bonding with her kids. That was how she ended up doing it. And anyway, it was really cute. We're all different. And that's wonderful. We all should be different. I cook and bake also with my grandkids. Yeah, I hate cooking, but yeah. But yeah, anything like that, where you're doing something together and, it's all good. You find your own way. We all have different personalities. And which is what makes us interesting. It'd be boring if we were all the same. What time is it? I'm gonna have to get going soon. I've got an appointment. I need advice on teaching my 2-year-old to share. I can't help you because I've never known how to do that. They really don't understand that other people the only reason they share is because they don't want to get hit, or they're shy about it, but they don't really understand sharing. But yeah, you can't really teach a 2-year-old to share. The best you can do is just give them each a pail and a shovel, like they each have equal things. Yeah, but they don't really understand sharing. Sometimes they'll hand something over, but they don't really understand it. They'll hand it over because they know they have to, kind of thing, but they don't really understand sharing. There again, it's your expectation of your toddler's out of whack with that. You can't really teach them that, I need advice. My 3-year-old hasn't slept more than 6 hours straight since born. Yeah, my kids weren't sleepers. They both stopped napping at 12 months old. They still had accidental naps, but they stopped regular napping at 12 months old. So yeah. They were on the calmer side as kids though, so it wasn't like they were going full out. You might just have a hyperactive kid. So yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what to say. What does the doctor say? Because that is unusual. No, that's not unusual. If he naps, he's still getting sleep. It's just he's not getting it all in one go. Maybe cut out the naps. Is he still napping? A lot of parents say they won't go to bed till midnight, and then I'll find out. I'll say, well, are they napping during the day? Yeah, they have 2 3-hour naps. That's why they're not going to bed till midnight. Like at 3 years old, they don't always need naps. Some of them do, some of them don't. We're all different. Kids can learn how to share at 3. The age of 3 is when they start to be able to reason. And 3 3/4 is when they really shift. I don't know the term for it. I used to argue this, but professionals used to argue with me over this. And they would say, no, they can't reason until they're 5, or they can reason when they're 2.5. And I always said, no, it's 3 3/4. That's when they understand, oh, wait, I'm not the only one in the world. Other people have feelings too. It's when they can start understanding empathy. It's not until they understand empathy that they truly understand sharing, because other people have needs and wants too. That's empathy, you see. So it's 2 3/4, 3 3/4 is a real turning point with kids. 3 years and 9 months. Anyway, that's what the professionals say now, 3 years and 9 months. So I was right. They'll probably say so. You can look it up. They'll probably say something different. But yeah, took me, I figured that out when they were really little. I thought, geez, that's a real turning point with kids. 3 years and 9 months, empathy comes in. Like start to cry when someone else cries, but not just because they're scared when the other person cries, but because they feel their pain. By the way, they don't all feel that. Some adults don't feel that, but that's when they can start to do that. Well, okay. How to make kid pick me more strict over my husband who was more funny. I was the leader, I was also the goofy one. So leader isn't about being strict. It's about I okay. I would say my weapon of choice with all kids and teenagers I worked with, I always called it my weapon of choice was humor. I was always fun Lisa or funny Lisa with teenagers. That was sort of my thing. Humor is my thing. That's my tool. So leaders does not mean strict. Strict does not mean you're not fun. It means that you follow through and you bring out the best in kids. You bring out the best in kids and they're drawn to you. They're very drawn to a leader that brings out the best in them. They just are. They feel good about themselves. Your goal when you're a leader is not to make them feel good about you. It's to make them feel good about themselves. When you're the source of that, they want to please you like you wouldn't believe. It's very powerful. Once you get that, especially with delinquent teenagers or violent teenagers that I was mentoring, once you get that, you better be very careful with it because you got a lot of power because they really will do anything you say pretty much to please you. Like what I mean is because no one else has provided them with making them feel that good about themselves. So yeah, think about it. Are you drawn to people that you're impressed by or drawn to people that make you feel good? No one wants to be impressed. We all just want to feel good, right? That's what a leader is. You make kids feel good about themselves. Think about, I don't have time to say it right now because I've got a client. The pool story, that whole pool story synopsizes everything that leadership is, except the real fun goofing around with them. But that pool story, that is the one, it's my favorite parenting story. And you've probably heard it a million times. That is exactly a good example of I was strict, but I was fun. And that kid just wanted to please me. I couldn't get rid of him all afternoon. I took charge. I'm a leader. And then I made him feel good about himself. So yeah, don't think that they're opposing. I was definitely the goofy parent and I was also the leader. So their dad's great. He was the pleaser parent, but I was the leader. I was the one they turned to. And I was also the goofy one. So yeah, being strict or being the leader does not mean you're serious at all because Lord knows I'm not. But when I'm disciplining, I mean business. Like, yeah, you made a mistake, you messed up there. So here's the consequence. I get real calm when I'm disciplining. I get very quiet. I whisper when I'm disciplining. Didn't like that. Tell you what we're going to do. Okay. So it's like that. And then you go back to being fun again. And they're very drawn to you. They're very drawn to, they look at you different. Whenever I worked with kids, they just look at you differently. It's quite amazing. Anyway, I really have to go. Thanks so much for joining me. What was I going to say? Oh, okay. So I was just reading a comment on YouTube. So anyway, I'll be back again tomorrow, and everything that I have to offer is in the Bratbusters link above, or on YouTube. It's in my website down there. Anyway, so you can hire me for coaching, buy one of my courses, or download my free behavior board that starts at the age of 3. The course is from 3 to 12, and it's 5 weeks to get respect. It is paced out very carefully. Do not rush it. You can elongate it by 1 or 2 weeks, but do not rush it. Do not go to week 4. Week 4, everyone wants week 4. Do not go right there. You got to do week 1, week 2, week 3. Anyway, I got to go. Thanks so much. Bye now.